The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
Hello, welcome to Senior Issues, Etc. I'm your host this evening, Ellen Roberts, and today we have a representative from Lake County Honor Flight with us. This is Paula Carballido.
Yes.
Thank you. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization you're working with?
Yes, so first, thank you for the invitation to participate today. It's a great opportunity that we have. So my name is Paula Carballido, and I am the president of the Lake County Honor Flight Illinois chapter. And I am a proud resident of the city of North Chicago, and I'm also the co-founder of our chapter here in North Chicago, and the trip director while we're on the flight. So.
Well, that's wonderful. I've heard of honor flights, but I didn't really know as much as I should until spoke with you and did a little bit of research on the web. Which veterans are eligible for and what is an honor flight for people who really?
That's the most important question. Yes. So for those that don't know what an honor flight is, so honor flights were created to take veterans to Washington, D.C. to visit their memorials for free. So those are veterans that served during the conflicts and the eras of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And so we take them to Washington to visit their memorials for free. The majority of the hubs across the country either do a same-day flight, and then there's some hubs like us that do overnight flights. And so that's what we do.
Okay, that's nice. So just a veteran goes out and visits the memorial, and is this going to continue on? I mean, right now, the World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, I mean, I think,
Yeah.
And then it unfortunately extends as other conflicts.
Yes, it will. So our sister hubs in our area, so we're nestled between 3 honor flights. There's 130 honor flights across the country.
That many?
We're one out of those 130. So we're nestled in between Chicago, Milwaukee, and McHenry. And our sister hubs have done a really great job taking World War II veterans to Washington, D.C. So for us, we take World War II veterans, Korea veterans, and also Vietnam veterans. The majority of our veterans on our waiting list are Vietnam veterans, and we prioritize by age, so the most senior veterans to the front of the line, and then those who have any health issues, those that are terminally ill, we put them to the front of the line, and then the Vietnam veterans, those are first come, first serve.
Okay. Yeah. About how many veterans can go on an honor flight at one time?
So for us in Lake County, we take up to 23 veterans at a time. Our entire group consists of 56 passengers. We have 23 veterans, 23 guardians, and then 10 volunteers on the trip that help us coordinate and execute this trip.
What's the difference between a guardian and a volunteer?
Yeah, so the guardian is a different role and responsibility. Our chapter here in Lake County, we are a volunteer organization, so all of our team is made up of volunteers. It's 100% run on a volunteer basis. And so what we need on the trip is each one of the veterans that participates is assigned a guardian, and that guardian can either be a family member if the veteran has someone in mind, or it can be anybody in the community. On our website, we have some of the requirements to be a guardian on a flight, and then that guardian pays a guardian donation to the organization, and then that covers the expenses for the guardian on the flight. Versus the volunteers, we have 10 volunteers on each trip, and then those volunteers consist of photographers, videographers, ground crew, which help with our luggage and wheelchair and food and water, and then our trip coordinators, and including myself as well.
It's nice having a professional photographer. Then you can enjoy the experience without have to worry about taking photographs, and you still have memories
Yes.
that are in focus.
Yeah.
I'm speaking of my own camera skills here. That's nice. And okay, so about how many memorials do you get to visit when you're? I mean, I'm sure it varies by weather and conditions.
Yes, it does vary. So we do 3 trips a year. So we fly out in April, at the end of April. We fly in August, and then we fly in October. 3 out of our 2 flights are 3 days and 2 nights. So we fly out on a Friday and we come back on a Sunday. And then our August flight is 2 days, 1 night. So that's a Saturday and Sunday. And the reason we get a question, the biggest question for our August flight is, why is it just 2 days? It's the hottest day of the month in Washington. So if you've ever been there, it is a really hot month. So we try to limit that to a shorter time span. And then also, we've surveyed some of our veterans and asked, you know, would they like a 3-day trip or a 2-day trip? And since we have sister hubs that are already doing same-day flights, we wanted to offer something different. So that's why we only do overnight flights. But we had some veterans that would say that they're the sole caregiver of their spouse. And so they didn't want to be gone for a long period of time. And some of them didn't have family or friends, you know, to come and take care of their spouse while they were gone. So this gave them an opportunity to be able to still go and only have to worry about having someone take care of their loved one for 1 night versus 2 nights. So that was important to us, to be able to offer 2 different flights.
I'm surprised that some go on a 1-day turnaround. That seems exhausting. I think it would have been tiring in my 30s, much less for, you know, veterans in their 80s and 90s.
Well, if you ask them, it's, you know, even though it's a long day, you know, they're able to get the full experience. And everyone on the trip is running on adrenaline 100%. So they're meeting early, you know, everyone's excited, they're having breakfast, they're getting on a plane, they're going to see their memorials, and then they're coming home, and then they have a huge welcome home ceremony at the airport. So that's our sister hubs. For us, it's a little different because even though our days are still long, we are meeting a little bit earlier than our sister hubs, but then we meet in the city of North Chicago at the Foss Park Golf Course currently, and then we charter a bus up to Milwaukee Airport. We fly out of Milwaukee. And then
that's a nice airport.
It is.
Not so congested.
It is. And Milwaukee has been so amazing. We have a team of a dozen volunteers out there, and they're coordinators and representatives from the airport and the airline, the USO, the police department, their special operations, and we coordinate, you know, what we're going to do right before the trip so that we get there and things are already ready to go. We fly through Southwest. Southwest has been the only airline we've flown through. The main reason is every year since our inception, they've been donating an average of 25 free tickets for our veterans to fly. And this year, they stepped it up and they gave us 30 free tickets. So that saves us a lot of money. Lake County Honor Flight has to fundraise. You know, we get a question from the veterans often that says, where do you guys get your funding? And we say, just people in the community, generous businesses, organizations that come alongside us to hold fundraisers. And so they ask, well, the government doesn't give you money? And I'm like, the government doesn't have any money.
That's true.
They were like, the state of Illinois doesn't give you any money? And we're like, they don't have any money either. So we joke with them and we tell them that it's just the generosity of people in our community that are like, hey, I want to sponsor a veteran. I like to contribute by sponsoring, you know, some meals. So it's always been just a generosity from the people that are in our community.
Now, do you have a website that people could contact you and make a donation that you
could? Anybody that is interested in sponsoring a veteran or donating any amount, I always tell people it doesn't matter what amount you donate, it's all going back towards the veterans. So 100% of it is going towards the veterans. We have no employees, everyone's a volunteer. So you can go to lakecountyhonorflight.org. And there's a button right on the front homepage that says donate, and you can donate any amount. Or we also have a tab that says sponsorship levels or other ways to help. And on there you will find a link to sponsor a veteran, and it'll tell you the amount of the veteran sponsorship.
Okay. And do you send out emails to let people know what's going on?
Yes,
or-
so also on our website at lakecountyhonorflight.org, there is a link where you can sign up to get our newsletter. We send out our newsletter every week, once a week. We've taken a break for 2 weeks after our last trip, so we kind of take a break, but then we'll pick it up this week. And then every week we send out information regarding upcoming trips, reunions, information that people in the community give us to say, hey, we have some events for veterans that are free, or we have other things going on in our community that we'd like to invite your veterans to participate. So we put that all together and we send out a weekly newsletter.
That would be, good for somebody who's, knows someone that they think would enjoy an honor flight.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to lay the groundwork, mention it to Dad once,
Yeah.
twice, 20 times.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that. So one question we get often, especially from family members, is how do I sign up my loved one to go on an honor flight? And we have to stress to people, don't push them. It's a difficult, what we found out is it's a difficult thing for some veterans, especially those that served during Vietnam, who experienced some traumatic things and are suffering from, PTSD and other things that they saw and experienced, to just kind of mention it to them and allow them to kind of process, do they want to go and when is the right time for them to go. We've noticed that with World War II veterans and Korea War veterans, it was a little bit easier. And with the Vietnam veterans, it kind of takes a couple tries to be like, hey, would you like to go? Don't push them. They usually will come around and say, okay, I'm ready to go. The one thing veterans always say to me is, I don't feel worthy. I don't think I need to go. There's probably people that deserve it more. If I listen to them, we'd be taking no one. So we tell them everyone is worthy of going. We take veterans that served during the eras of the conflicts of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. That means you don't have to have served in combat during that conflict. We understand that not everybody could go to the conflict. We had to have people here protecting our country, and also other veterans were sent around the world. And so during that time that we mentioned, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, if you served, you're eligible to go.
Okay. Well, that's good to know that you don't, there's not a whole lot of restrictions, and it's very open. And probably be nice to talk to other veterans, because, and my father was in World War II, but when he came home, there were a lot of men that he could talk to. This is what my mother said. Whereas Vietnam, it was a smaller group that, needed the conversations with.
So what we noticed with our Vietnam veterans is a lot of them want to come, but they want to bring a buddy. And we tell them that's absolutely fine. On the application, which is located on our website, lakecountyhonorflight.org, on the application, there's a space for you to submit a name for someone that you'd like to fly with on the trip. And then what we do is when those seats come available, we will assign you both to that trip. Or if you have, 2 other buddies, we've had it where we've had 3 friends that came together. We can do that because we understand that it was just a different time. And so sometimes veterans, they don't know, they don't know people, and so they are kind of nervous to come on a trip, especially overnight, with strangers. But that's the beauty of having guardians on the flight. The guardians are trained. They spend 7 hours where we talk about everything that can possibly happen on the trip, and then all of their roles and responsibilities. And included in there is meeting their veteran at least once prior to the trip, and then also communicating with them every single week up until the trip. And then that way, it's not just, hey, we're meeting each other for the first time and we're going to spend this weekend together. So we want to make sure that we kind of get to know each other. So that's one way that we work with our veterans. And then also, we have veterans that come and say, well, I will only travel with my spouse. Well, unfortunately for us, we don't allow spouses to be guardians for a veteran. Now, if a spouse is able to meet the requirements to be a guardian, they're more than welcome to be a guardian, but they just can't be a guardian for their spouse or on the same flight. They can be a guardian on any other flight, just not on their flight. With the exception of spouses that are also veterans themselves, then yes, we would bring both the spouses on the same flight, but then each of them would be assigned their own guardian. So that's
Okay,
part
so
of what we do.
it's
It's a question that's asked often, and we have to stress that yes, unfortunately, we don't allow them to be spouses on the same flight.
because this isn't a vacation.
It's meant, and because it's also meant to be a trip that's free for the veterans, and if the guardian has to pay the guardian donation, that's also part of the spouse's finances. So that's one of the reasons. And sometimes the spouses are around the same age, and they may not be able to physically meet the requirements that we have for a particular flight.
Okay, well, we're going to take just a quick little break and little housekeeping, I guess, for give you a second to take a breath here. So this is our little, like I said, the break, where remind everybody that right now we're in the middle of Medicare enrollment, and if you need any help with that, there's a state health insurance assistance program that Illinois has, and you've got a phone number that you can call if you ask somebody some questions. 1-800-252-8966, and so so many ads on TV, it's hard to remember that although they've been going on for so long, you almost forget you have to get it done if you want to make any changes. And let everyone know that next month our guest will be Elder Care, Neighbors Helping Neighbors, and so you'll see that show in December. And, if anyone's interested in the show, we're also looking for volunteers to come in and help out. You can just come and watch a filming and see if it's something you'd like to do. It takes about a 2-hour commitment each month, and we're a nice group. You should come visit us and join. Okay. Oh, and also the reminder here that this is the time when you put those new batteries in that smoke detector. Or get one of those wonderful new ones that you only have to get a new one every 10 years.
There you go.
That's, stay off of that ladder, I tell you.
Yeah.
It was so much easier going up and down those 30 years ago than it is now. But anyway, so, well, all right, nice little break for you, I hope. Take a breath of air. And so, let's see, you were talking about the wheelchairs for the veterans. So that's nice that people who aren't that mobile or worry about walking around can have one. Do they have to pre-arrange with you if they need that?
So it's a good question. There's a couple things that come up that veterans like to ask. It's like, well, they need a wheelchair, or they use a cane. And so for liability reasons, we don't allow canes on the trip. But what we do is we assign a wheelchair to every single participant, and then whether they're mobile or wheelchair bound, it's available for them. They don't have to sit in it if they're fully mobile and they can walk around, or if they use a cane, they can just use the wheelchair as a walker and get their exercise that way. But just for liability reasons, having a cane on the trip is difficult. So we say no canes. And then during the training, which is 7 hours long, the guardians have all of the roles and responsibilities and all the things that the veterans need to pack and they need to bring on the trip. And so then they relay that information to their veteran. And we also mail a letter to the veteran that will state all of the things that we will provide, and then all the things that they need to bring and the things that they need to pack. But we have a very generous company that has been donating free wheelchairs for every single one of our veterans, every single trip.
That's fantastic.
They deliver them and they pick them up. They're called Advocare, and it's amazing. They've been doing that since the beginning, and that saves us a lot of money instead of having to buy our own and store them, or even rent them because they're costly. They do it for free, and they've been doing that with a generous heart. So we're really grateful to Advocare.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
A great company, and thank you for helping out with that. And even if you don't need a wheelchair, I can imagine having one there if there's anything. I mean, you can just sit in it while you're listening to some presentation.
Yeah,
and,
Yeah, we go to, so you had asked earlier, and I apologize I didn't mention the memorials that we go to. So the honor flights were created to visit the World War II Memorial. And then where the World War II Memorial is located, you also have the Korean War Memorial and the Vietnam Wall and the Lincoln Memorial. So we go and see all of those. We also additionally, including with those, we also go and visit the Air Force Memorial, Iwo Jima, which is the Marine Corps Memorial, Then we go to Arlington National Cemetery to view the changing of the guard. Right where the changing of the guard in Arlington are also is located the Women in Military of America Service Memorial. So that memorial we stop by, and then we go over to the U.S. Navy Plaza, and we also go to the U.S. Navy Museum, which is located inside of the Navy Yard. And our honor flight in North Chicago started because of the unveiling of the Martin Luther King Memorial. So we also include the Martin Luther King Memorial there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a full couple of days.
It is, and that's why it's nice to be able to spread it over either 2 days or 3 days. Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you take buses? But I've never been to Washington, so
Okay.
on the list. So
Yeah.
I don't know how how far
Yeah.
away these memorials are from each other.
Yeah,
or whether
so we fly into the Reagan National Airport, and then we charter a bus, and then we do the touring from there. Each memorial we visit anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the weather. If it's raining, we also try to go into a memorial that's indoors so that we stay out of the rain. And if it's chilly, we try to do the same thing as well. But we charter a bus, and then we go to these memorials, and we split them up over 2 to 3 days, and then we stay at a hotel in Fairfax, Virginia. And we have a nice dinner at a local restaurant, or we cater, and then we have a good night's rest, and we get up and we do it all over again the next day. And while we're out there, we partner with different organizations to either provide a free meal, or different groups will come and visit the veterans at the memorials and greet them, or they may even come to the hotel and surprise and greet them there as well, along with a huge reception at the airport when we land at Reagan National Airport. So that's just one of the ways that people, whether they're here in Illinois or out in Washington, can volunteer and participate. And that information you can find on our website as well, because these trips require a lot of planning and a lot of volunteers, over 400 volunteers that are coming and volunteering on the day of, or the 3 months prior to the planning of a trip.
Well, that sounds great. And I'm assuming the veterans are like me. It's always nice to have somebody new that you can tell the same old stories to, except you haven't told them 30 times to that person. So,
there's definitely a joke on the trip where the veterans will say, hey, by the way, you're going to hear my joke. And we talk about this during the training. Like, you're going to hear a joke maybe 10, 12 times over the duration of the trip. But the story will get better as the days go on. So we say you're going to laugh harder as the jokes are being told. So we understand that. Yeah. And then veterans just remember. And the unique thing that we have to remember is that I've had the honor of being able to do this. We get the privilege to serve our veterans, to take some time and say thank you for what you did for our country, and thank you for stepping in the gap for us. Before you knew me, I wasn't around when World War II and Korea and even Vietnam, where you sacrificed for us. And so one important thing that we take time to do, especially for our Vietnam veterans, this has been very important, is taking some time out of our schedule to just say that we are sorry for the way that our nation treated you upon your return, for the things that were said and the things that were done. If nobody's ever said we're sorry to you, we take that time to do that, to say we are sorry for what happened. As a grateful nation, we appreciate your service and sacrifice. And our honor flights take that time to just say, let's take 2 and let's do it right. Let's do it the right way. And it's not going to erase those tragic things that were said and done to them, but we definitely can download and create some new memories, and hopefully the veterans will start to lean on those new, fun memories.
Yeah, you're right, because I had a cousin who was in Vietnam, so when I was in college, there were some of the vets were back in school, and they, I don't know, seemed to instinctively know someone who was, I'd say sympathetic, but not hostile to their situation. And not that we talked about the war, but it just, you're just a college student like I am, maybe 2-3 years older, but, it's, you need that.
Yeah, it's
You've gotta
difficult.
be validated.
No, you're right. As a country, we can come together to say, hey, we know we have that right to protest, and we know we have that right to be able to express how we feel. But so much time has passed. We have part of our training, which is the 7 hours, is to instill into the Guardians' minds, like, hey, this trip is not going to be about you. You're not going to, you know, this is going to be 100% for the veteran. And one of those things includes the grieving part, where we tell the guardians, you have to be able to allow the grief to belong to the griever. That person is allowed to cry and express themselves. And if you take that moment to start crying, then that takes away from the veteran. So we tell them, listen, you can be able to hold your tears for 72 hours. Our veterans have been waiting 50 plus years for that moment. You can wait. And it's a hard conversation to have, but almost all of our guardians understand what that means, to say, hey, this moment is for my veteran, and I'm just going to be there and allow them to finally be able to express themselves in that emotional way. And it's an intimate thing, you know, where we give everybody respect and we give them space and time and allow them to have their moments.
Right, and in some ways I think it must be easier with a group of new friends, strangers. You're not worried about your family and how they think of me and how I think of them, and it's just a much more safe environment.
And as you say that, that's also part of our training, is to tell the guardians, some guardians are family members, but we tell the family members, this is not a time during the trip to turn around and find out from your loved one why they've never shared this story that you heard for the first time being shared to a stranger. You know, because emotions can come in from the relatives that say, you've never shared that with me, you've never told that to me, and it's like, it's not about you.
Right.
We've spent 7 hours saying that, and that's part of the reason is it's okay. You're gonna, the veterans don't always feel comfortable having shared, and I hear this a lot from family members that say, my father, my grandfather never talked about his service, never talked about the war. But then they come on this trip with strangers, and all of a sudden they're sharing intimate moments, or even with other veterans, you know, and then they can relate. And we have to tell the family members, hey, in that moment, you just have to let them have their time, and it's not time to question why they're sharing this for the first time. It's okay. It happens often.
Now, you said there's a Flags of Our Heroes program for, we just have a couple minutes left, for someone who wasn't able to make the trip, but if you could explain that.
Yeah,
to
Flags of Our
viewers.
Heroes, we take up to 3 veterans on each flight, and that program is intended for any veteran that did not have a chance to go on their honor flight, whether it was during the time that, you know, honor flights were around or even prior to that. And people can find information on our website for the Flags of Our Heroes. And what we do is we take their picture in a flag case, and then we take that flag case and we treat those veterans, whether it's 1 or 3 in the case, like they were on the trip. We celebrate them, we take pictures with them, and then all the veterans on the trip take turns going to each memorial and visiting the memorials. And then upon our return, we have a welcome home ceremony in the city of North Chicago, which is at the Veterans Memorial Park.
I wanted to cover that,
Our memorial park in North Chicago is one of a kind. It's dedicated to the first 13 African American officers that served in the Navy. So we have a huge public ceremony. We invite everybody to come out, and we present back the veterans that were in our Flags of Our Heroes program, and we do a flag folding ceremony and present a plaque to the family members of the recipients.
Oh, how nice. And it's wonderful that you have so many people who go to the airport, meet them. I mean, I knew it was complex, but I didn't realize how many groups were involved and how it all has to come together.
Yeah.
You know, kind of makes the family reunion look easy.
Yeah, it's a lot of moving pieces, but you know, I always share with the public that there is many different ways for people to participate. Some people may say, I financially can't contribute right now, but what else can I do? Go to the website. There's something for everybody, whether it's the welcome home ceremony, writing letters to the veterans, or helping us behind the scenes. There's a way to help.
That's wonderful. Well, we're running out of time here, so hopefully we can show your website one more time.
So LakeCountyHonorFlight.org.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming. This has been interesting. We could have gone on for another half hour, I think, but you know, it was very nice meeting you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I just like all of our viewers to remember that when you get to the end of your rope, you're supposed to tie a knot and hang on, because the best is yet to come. I hope you have a good week. Good night.